Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, you're going to meet the great Jay Rosser. He's the director of the Boone Pickens Foundation. We'll be talking about his legendary career next.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
Well, in any conversation about legendary oilmen, you have to talk about Boone Pickens, who passed a few years ago at the age of 91, probably one of the most philanthropic people in Dallas-Fort Worth. Jay Rosser is in the studio right now. He's the director of the Boone Pickens Foundation. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me, Jeff. It's an honor.
Well, we're gonna talk a lot about Boone here in a minute, but I want people to know your journey. So you started out in news.
Started out as a newspaper reporter in Corpus Christi, Texas. Ended up working for a chain at that time called Hard Hanks, which had 14 different Texas newspapers. Ultimately became a political reporter, reporting for all 14 newspapers out of Austin.
And then you ended up being the deputy press secretary for Governor Clements, and that was in the 80s, am I right?
That was 86 to 90, roughly. His
Wow.
second non-consecutive term.
Well, that probably had to be a change for you to go from, covering the news to now really working reporters to, I guess, field questions and manage his reputation.
It was challenging because I knew a lot of the reporters at the time, and the feeling is you want to be as helpful and cooperative with them as you can, and sometimes there's sensitive issues that you have to kind of put your arm out and kind of block them a little bit.
Sure.
There were some very controversial issues that we were involved in. It's a period where SMU got the death penalty when the governor was chairman of the SMU Board of Regents, which ironically, everything that SMU was doing at the time, paying players, is now commonplace.
Right.
Stunning change of events.
All right, so then you go from that to the private sector, working with Boone. Tell us that journey.
So started to work for Boone and his oil and gas company, Mesa Petroleum, in 1990. Worked there for 6 years. Great. It's a publicly traded company, so you had all kinds of SEC issues. But when I really discovered what a master communicator Boone was.
Okay, much more from Jay in a second. I found a great piece that Pete Delkus from Channel 8 did a couple years ago. Let's go ahead and roll that.
Boone, how are you?
Pete,
It's good to see you.
thank you.
What have you been up to?
Oh, you wouldn't believe it.
Tell me. I've been friends with Boone for a little over a decade. It all started through a chance meeting because of our love of bobwhite quail. We hit it off immediately.
Now, some of you been here before.
We've traveled together, attended sporting events, hunted at his ranch in the Texas Panhandle, and I've often told Boone I only have one problem with our relationship. I wish we were closer in age. So back when I was in my 20s and 30s, you were too, we could have really had some fun quail hunting for a long
we
time.
could have.
Is there a certain event that sticks out to you in the last 90 years that's really impacted you more than anything else?
90 years?
90 years. Did you know you're going to be 90 years old?
I've not wanted to face it.
In my wildest dreams growing up in a small town in southern Illinois, I never imagined hanging out with a billionaire, having one of the richest people in the world share his personal stories with me. And I wanted you to hear a few of them too.
My grandmother told me, said, Sonny, if you don't smoke cigars, you will be 6 feet tall. You look at me and that surprises you.
I think you smoke cigars.
Is that what?
As two former athletes, sports is a main topic of our conversation. Boone grew up playing basketball, although he wasn't the quickest kid in the gym. One of his college coaches once told him this.
You know, Pickens, you can't run fast enough to scatter leaves. And that wasn't true.
You could scatter leaves?
I can run fast enough to scatter leaves.
The best advice Boone ever got came from his dad while he was in college at Oklahoma State.
He said, a fool with a plan can beat a genius with no plan.
With his plan in hand, Boone graduated from OSU and had another conversation with his dad.
I thought, he's going to give me some money.
It's like a graduation gift.
I walked over to my dad and I said, well, I got out of here. And he said, you did? And he said, I'm glad for you because you did what you said we're going to do. And he said, I've got one more thing for you. And I said, what is it? And he said, good luck.
I love Boone's sense of humor. We're both sarcastic and deliver a joke with a straight face,
He stepped back and I hit it.
not cracking a smile.
If it's in the hole, go ahead and kiss me.
But the one thing I respect most about Boone, it's his generosity.
One of the things that I look back on is I really saved my university. That's been a big winner for me. All told, to that university, I've given about $500 million.
It's not just the $1 billion he's donated to philanthropic endeavors over the years, it's the things Boone does that most people never hear on the news or read about in the paper. Not bad for the guy his dad worried was a fool without a plan. What was the conversations like with your dad years later? You had then become a hugely successful business guy.
He said, you did everything you said you were going to do.
Yeah.
And I did. Before he died, he said, how long are you going to work? And I said, well, I think I'll probably work till they take me out of the office in a pine box. He said, well, you answered the question. You're going to be there forever. And that's about the way I ended up.
And very few people on the planet got to know him as well as you did. When you're looking at a piece like that, what comes to mind?
How special he was. That clip was from later in his life, probably 87. And he lived such a fun, fast-paced life, and the impact he had in the business world, in philanthropy is just stunning. He launched what was called the Pickens Plan in 2008. It was a plan to help get America off OPEC oil dependence for economic and national security reasons. So he was 80 years old at the time. That year we spent more than 600 hours on his airplane traveling across the country to preach that message.
Just endless energy for somebody in his 80s to be traveling around the country preaching this. I mean, you had to be impressed with his stamina.
Yes, absolutely. And I was, probably 50 years old at the time, trying to keep up with a guy who was, almost that much older than me. He would always say he was put on this earth for two reasons. One, to make money. Second, to be generous with it. And that he was generous. More than $1 billion in giving to,
Yes.
a wide range of causes. I mean, he's really changed the health and medical landscape here in Dallas.
Yes.
By the support of UT Southwestern, the Boone Pickens Hospice Center, the T. Boone Pickens YMCA. So he was certainly generous with it.
Well, I know a little something about podcasting, but you were doing podcasting before podcasting was cool. We've got some video from a podcast that you did a few years ago with Boone, probably at the height of the Pickens Plan. Let's go ahead and put this on the screen, and I want you to just kind of remind us, this was revolutionary. I mean, for an oil man to be talking about clean energy and getting away from OPEC, this was, it was not universally loved, was it?
Wasn't universally loved in the oil and gas space, but I think everybody at the end of the day understood what he was trying to accomplish. He was for anything American, whether it's wind and solar for power generation or natural gas as a heavy-duty truck transportation fuel, anything to get off of OPEC oil dependence.
As you look back on your long career with Boone, how will you remember him? What lessons did you learn?
How to communicate effectively, and embrace the ever-changing landscape of media opportunities. He was an early advocate. If you look at the Pickens Plan, along with President Obama, he was the first one to really use the internet to advocate for public policy changes. Again, with his Pickens plan. Over time, he embraced every form of communication there was: Twitter, podcasts, LinkedIn. So just the power of communications.
And he had a sense of humor. You were telling a story right before the show about Drake, the rapper Drake. Would you share that story?
Sure. Well, we finally talked about getting Boone on Twitter, and one day we had about, 15 followers on Twitter. This would have been 2008. Boone had just written a book called The First Billion is the Hardest. We were in the car traveling to an event, and he checked in with the office, which he did all the time. And somebody said, Drake just tweeted, "The first million is the hardest." And Boone said, well, tell him the first billion is a hell of a lot harder. So we went from like 15 Twitter followers to 150,000 overnight. It went viral. And Drake, to his credit, helped, because later on that afternoon he tweeted out, "At Boone Pickens just stunted on me heavy." So
that's hilarious. We have about a minute left, so final thoughts. What do you want to leave people with, Jay?
You know what? I really appreciate, Jeff, you doing this, because I think Boone leaves a lasting legacy for others. His entrepreneurship, his devotion to securing America's energy policy, his philanthropy. A lot of people associate him with Oklahoma State and his giving there, which he gave $650 million, very generous. But it was also split equally between academics and athletics. So just his, never-ending drive to try and make America a better place. And I'm just thankful we celebrate that legacy today.
Outstanding. Thank you so much for sharing your heart and your wisdom and your memories of Boone. We're going to end with Jay's LinkedIn page so you can get in touch with him, the great Jay Rosser. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you, Jeff.
You bet. That's it for now. We'll see you next time.